Hi, I'm Michael Sutter and welcome to the 10th edition of 202 TV. Earlier this spring, the U.S. Army sent speakers to discuss their cybersecurity program. Here's what they had to say. On January 24th, the U.S. Army cybersecurity specialists came to Lena Winslow to discuss what goes into the preservation and securities of the U.S.'s information. They talked about how foreign governments can use hackers of their own to seize information, such as troop location, economic data, and election results. The students also learned that it is a field that is growing in today's job market with not enough people to fill the vacancies. With a bachelor's degree, a computer systems analyst can make up to $85,000 a year, which makes it a job that is integral with today's ever-expanding technological path that the world is taking. The main reason that hacking is so appealing and used is that it gives us an appeal similar to that of nuclear capacity, according to New York Times. It is something that outgunned, outfinanced nations could use to even the playing field in modern war, economics, and politics. It has even been said that a complete takeover of cyberspace could be one of the top 10 things that could be the end of the human race. While some experts say that the potential harm could be exaggerated, the Army has taken many steps in building a program that will meet future's challenges. They are finding the people who can make firewalls, locate potential breaches, and monitor America's systems. The security will be top-notch because sabotage could be used to attack the systems from the inside. Whether it is debugging corrupted files or flying drones, the cybersecurity team is always ready to tackle the troubles this nation faces, both foreign and domestic.
Basically, cybersecurity is any safeguards that we employ to defend our networks in cyberspace. If you look at any other physical security, whether it be doors or physical alarms, we have those things in place to ensure that we keep the bad guys out, basically. So the same thing in cyberspace. We have to safeguard our cyber interests. Anything from financial institutes to your personal emails needs to be safeguarded against hackers out there who intend on inflicting harm to us. Why is it important? It's very important because right now, as far as a warfighting force, the U.S. military is second to none. But the cyberspace realm makes everybody on an even playing field. So we have to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to safeguard our way of life by protecting our cyberspace.
Honduras is one of the most dangerous countries on the planet, and two of our students went there as part of their church's mission trip. Here is their impression.
My trip to Honduras at the beginning of February was a great trip all around, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, really. My mom had gone one time before that, a couple years before, and she had brought the idea up to me, and it was for our church, and I decided, well, I'll give it some thought. It was a long plane ride because we had to get from Houston, Texas to Honduras, Tegucigalpa, the capital, and it took about, let's say, 5-6 hours, and we got up at 4 in the morning just to go to the church in Freeport, and from there we had to go everywhere. When we got to Honduras, it was nothing like I expected. I thought that it would be a poor country and there would be some poor people there, but I wasn't expecting it on the range that it was to be, how poor it was. I was looking at the structures of the buildings, I was looking at the people outside of the buildings. It was very rough conditions. We got to our mansion, as I'd call it, because it is a huge place. It's where all the guests of the churches go to sleep and eat and just relax after we do our work. It was 2 churches, I believe, one from Park Hills, one from my church in Wisconsin, Martintown Community Church, and we all just got together, and those were the 2 groups that combined. And we had no idea who anyone was on our church in our group before we even got there. So when we got there was a lot of adjusting to do, not only to the environment, but to the people that we were going with and working with. Our person who took us around the city, his name was Denise, and he took us there. He knew it was a safe place. He's the one that looks at the places before we go, looks at the environment around it. If there's any gangs in the area, we won't go. And our bus driver, Pedro, he drove us there. And when we got there, we went to the back. They had the room all set up for us, and it was just a huge meal. I mean, they had everything prepared for us, and we didn't eat half of it because they had half the population of cows there. I mean, so much meat you can only eat, you know. And while we were there, we heard on the news that downtown there had just been an explosion. Someone had planted a bomb under the bus of some church group, I believe, and a lot of people died. But, you know, this is Tegucigalpa, one of the most dangerous places in the world, and with the most crime in the world. And so that came as a shock, you know, but it was just a lot of readjusting that you had to do to life there and to life here. The showering and what we did at the place we were staying, I can't remember the name of it now, but what we did there was, you know, just like a regular day life here, except for you couldn't leave the mansion, the estate, I'd say, actually. And it was a gated estate. It had a wall all the way around it. But what was interesting there was a lot of trees behind the estate. But a lot of them were being marked. And we asked, what's all going on there? There was a bug going around killing all the trees. It was a parasite. And so they had to burn all the trees to the ground because it was spreading so fast. I mean, in a day's time, you'd see one whole section of a forest gone, all dried out and everything. But the arrangements there, we had 2 separate rooms. There were more rooms in the place, but we had 2 separate rooms, one for the girls in our group, one for the guys. There was 2 nights I didn't sleep in the room because guys snore. I realized that. I had to sleep on a couch out in the lobby, which a lot of groups have done in the past. But other than that, we'd brush our teeth and do all that. But the thing was about that, the showers and the faucets there, you couldn't drink the water out of it. Because even though you were at an estate and it was a nice place, they still didn't do the plumbing very well there. So they'd have all these, you know, big jugs that you'd see at an office, you know, with the water, and you'd have to use that for your teeth and everything. And of course, you still had to take a shower. You just couldn't open your mouth in the shower. I was sick. Oh, geez, this was terrible. It's not good to be sick, but it's also worse to be sick in Honduras. There's a different kind of sick between the two. I had something that made it to where I couldn't move because my stomach was just, it felt like there was an ulcer in my stomach, and I'm like, oh God, you know. I had to be evacuated from our work site. I was in Children's that day. I got there, and I told Marcia, because she was feeling better, so she came with us. This was our 2nd or 3rd day, I believe. And I told Marcia, hey, I'm not feeling well, I gotta go. And they took me up to the church, and I was in there, and I told the medical, hey, I'm not feeling well, do you have anything? And they're like, well, you know, sit down for a second. And I got so bad that I had to lay down. And so they brought a mattress out, and they went upstairs, and they laid it out on a little walkway you can walk out on and see the rest of the church. And I laid down, and it was about 10 minutes later, my pastor from the Freeport Church came up, and he was freaking out. He's like, oh my God, Jacob, what are you doing here? What's wrong? And he thought I was dead because I wasn't moving, and he wasn't told that, you know, hey, I'm laying down upstairs, you know. They just told him, oh, one of your men are sick. That was it. And then he went upstairs, and I'm laying there, and he's like, oh God. But I was taken back to the mission house, and I got better. I had to drink like an entire bottle of peach hot Pedialyte.
Myself and 25 other people traveled to Tegucigalpa, Honduras, to do medical mission work. There we went through Park Hills Church in Freeport, Illinois, and we did it through a organization called World Gospel Outreach. So we stayed at their mission site while we were there. We were there for medical work, but we did other things. We had to eat, so we ate at the mission house. We had previously, a couple of years ago, there were other members on the team that had stayed there, but they talked about American food. They all had American food, and they spiced it up this year, and we had all authentic cuisine and authentic food. So we had like lots of corn tortillas and like pico and guacamole and all Hispanic types of food. While we were the first place we were at was called the Brigade site. So what we did is we packed up all of our equipment and we took it to the Brigade site, or like a small church. And normally it was just like a one-room church house, but it was that's where we were at. It was called the Brigade. So the first Brigade site that we were at, I did optometry. So I used the autorefractor and I measured people's pupils and their retina in the back of their eye, and then we got them prescriptions. The first Brigade site was a little rough. It was it wasn't scary, but afterwards, our translators had told us that if we were to walk in that neighborhood by ourselves, it wouldn't be good for us. There was lots and lots of gang presence. There wasn't any police presence there. There was just the gang presence. But because we were there on medical mission work, so we were, they respected what we were doing for the community, and they were also Christians, so they respected what we were doing as Christians there. The second Brigade site that we were at, there was a lot of police presence. So it was like none to a lot. There were armed guards. All the police officers had the big machine guns walking around, but they were really friendly. They were nice. A couple of them came in to the church and got some treatment. But there was about three to four armed guards outside of the church that we were at, and we usually had about one or two inside. And I mean, it was a nice feeling to have some of that protection, but it was a little unsettling as well. Pretty much, I was interested in doing this trip because I want to go into medical mission work. So that's kind of like my dream, my life goal, I guess you could say, is medical mission work. So I heard that and I was like, oh, awesome, yes, I'm going, I'm done. So that was originally like what sparked my interest, and it was pretty much what I expected. It was a little bit different, but the streets are really narrow there, and the people are really friendly and really happy to see you, and it's so nice to have that gratefulness, I guess. You don't need that when you're doing the work. You don't need people to be, oh, thank you, but it's really nice to have people smiling at you, and you can tell a lot of times I couldn't understand what they were saying. I had a translator, but it was nice to see them smile after I got done with what they were doing and what I was doing. The second day I was at the first Brigade site. I was in dentistry, so we were paired up with a dentist, and I was paired up with one that spoke pretty good English, Dr. Carla, and her and I became pretty good friends. We filled cavities all day, and a lot of times, everyone had a cavity in almost every tooth because the water there was so unsanitary and so like corrosive that it gave them cavities just drinking the water there. So that was we filled cavities all day, and Carla and I talked, and she told me about Congress. She was running for Honduran, like the Congress in Honduras. So that was really neat that she was running, and I haven't really followed up with her, but I'm still in contact with her a little bit, and I still have some other friends from the first Brigade site I was at. So yeah, that was really fun, seeing that this dentist that's out doing mission work for her country is also running for a political position. So that was neat to talk to her and get her perspective on things. So one of my favorite like things there was a little boy. He was about 3 or 4 years old, and all the other kids were playing, and he was sitting alongside the building, just kind of like sitting there, and I was like, oh, this little kid's needs a little friend to hang out with. And so I went over and sat by him, and he gets this huge smile on his face the entire time. I was sat over there for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and the entire time he had this hugest smile on his face, and he was so adorable. And I kind of spoke a little Spanish to him and talked to him and asked him about his shoes, and that was really cute. So, and also on Sunday we went to a Sunday service, and they were singing and putting their hands up, and their music was so beautiful. They were singing, and it was all in Spanish, so I couldn't really understand the words, but just like you could feel the soul coming out of their music. So I think that Honduras is a really hard place to be in, but it's really beautiful, really kind and really loving, and I think that's the main part. Is you have to look past the poverty and the sadness, and see the joy and the love of the people there.
In this edition of Wordplay, we hear a poem from graduating senior Alec Rand.
3:25. That's when I usually wake up in the morning. Many people would find it weird that I would set an alarm, but it's not something that I could put on my phone or an alarm clock. It's something that my body automatically does. And when it does happen, I usually try to go back to sleep, but I never get fully pulled back in. So that is when I get up out of my bed, walk towards my window on the west side of my room, and I open it up. Many people would think that the silence of the whole area would be mystifying. But when I go through it, it's something that is actually calming. Makes me want to wake up at 3:25 every morning. While everybody in my house is sleeping, it's weird for me to think that I may be the only one awake in my house, or in my town, or even in my county. But when I think about how in Chicago, there's probably some homeless vet starving on a corner, or even going further across continents and nations, people could often struggle with hunger. And the fact that my macaroni and cheese and toast, even though it may be leftovers and something I don't want to eat, could be a godsend for people. And many people say that we have to have faith in humanity and all that it does. But look what humanity said they would do with faith when it came to the Titanic, or Hindenburg, or even Babi Yar. And as I sit and I mull these thoughts over, one of the things that would be great would be to write it down. And that's when I turn to the typewriter on the left side of my desk. An Olympia SM3. The case on the back says 1963, West Germany. The S key sticks and the roller is kind of stuck sometimes, but it's an aesthetic that I've learned to love. And when I often try to write my thoughts, they usually go away. As a writer, one thing that you're going to have to realize is the fact that many of the ideas that you often will get will vanish. You can have a lot of them, so many that they bounce around through your heads like circus performers or ballerinas, but yet when you try to put the pen to paper, they vanish. That's when I take a look to the bookshelf at the right when I sit at my desk behind my typewriter, and I see that every single one of these authors have put their pen to paper and committed to them. Stymies me to think that Isaac Asimov wrote so much that if you read a book of his every single week, it would still take 9 years to read everything that he wrote. This amount of pressure is something that many people would be completely discombobulated by. But the one thing that Isaac Asimov said, that if he was diagnosed with the disease, the one thing that he would do was write faster. This is when many people say that they would have their muse guide them, but you can't have your muse guide them all the time. There's no fox guiding me. I can't let the muse bring me out on a bad appointment like a bad dinner date. You have to take the initiative for yourself. You have to write, and even when you may stumble on spelling and pronunciation and bringing your idea effectively, you have to keep going. And day to day when I wake up, and often go through meeting the same people, going through the same counters, but finding new books, new ideas, new people, and making them into ideas and different stories and essays. so that it becomes something brighter. And yet every day that I do wake up at 3:25 and look out at the window and listen to the chirping of bugs and the silence of the land, I'm often quite content. Because when it comes to writing, you have to realize that you are alone, and even though it may be silent outside, the inside, when you bring everything to paper, is something that may be able to do very good. And even though sometimes you may get 1 page and other times you may get 20, it's the fight and the struggle that makes it worthwhile.
Now we have a representative from Clark College to tell us what it takes to become a Crusader.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Shepard. I'm an admissions counselor here representing Clark University. I'm really happy to be here. A little bit about Clark for you all who might be interested in getting ready for the college experience. We're a small liberal arts school, as many of you might be familiar with Dubuque. We're located smack dab in Dubuque, so if you're looking for a place that's kind of close, where you can go and get a quality liberal arts education as well as a private education, I would definitely encourage you to give us a look. If you are a student who happens to be interested in Clark, we invite you to look into us, on our website at www.clark.edu. We have a lot of good material up there, and we'd love to have you even better on campus. If you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. My number is 563-588-6469. Again, my name is Jonathan Shepard, and I'd be more than happy to help you potentially become our next Clarkie.
That's it for our 10th edition of 202 TV. I'm Michael Sutter, and thanks for watching.